The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome to the Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
And we got a double cigar for you today because we didn't end up getting the same thing. So, started us off, Brad. What are you smoking this week?
So this week I have the 2020 Cigar of the Year and ranked number 11 in 2021, or 2022 rather. I have the EP Carrillo Pledge Prequel.
Dun, dun, dun.
And this sports a U.S. Connecticut Habano wrapper with Ecuadorian binders and Nicaraguan fillers. And this is a small box press, only a 550, dark as shit. But so far, right off the gate, dude, I'm absolutely digging this cigar. You know, it's oaky, it's spicy, it's got just a touch of sweetness to it, and all around, all the flavors that seem to be satisfying my palate in such a small package.
Nice. And I have a long boy here, a 7 1/4 length, 54 ring gauge, the Punch 180th Anniversario.
That is crazy to think they've been around 180 years.
Yeah, this one sports a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, which has gone through some additional cedar aging, Connecticut broadleaf binder, and fillers from the Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and Honduras. Yeah, this medium full, kind of got a roast. We talked about last time the kind of the bitter coffee flavor of the other cigar, where this one's more kind of like a roasted coffee, oakish, like creamy, more creamy cigar.
Yeah, this has a touch of coffee to it. I don't know. It's crazy how, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, your palate and the different blends, like, you could be like, these cigars couldn't be further from apart, but you can pick up similar nuances and, you know, tasting notes. Or maybe that's just accustomed to what, you know, we like to taste because, you know, we like strong coffee, strong cigars, you know, full kick-ass bourbons and whiskeys, like.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it might not be that we find like similar things across the board of cigars. It's like, no, we seek out things that already fit the profiles we like. Well, this week we're going to be talking about a little show called The Last of Us.
Yeah, I can't tell you how difficult it was trying to be like, I just really want to go back and replay the games. But I was like, Joe's going to be so pissed if I don't finish this series.
Oh. So yeah, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us this week, and if you have to take on a horde of fungi-infected people, call in the Strike Force, strikeforceenergy.com. Use your promo code CigarNerds for 20% off your order. Get caffeinated in the apocalypse if you're having to travel light like Joel and Ellie. It comes in little tiny tin pouches you can put in your stash house or wherever you're keeping your supplies. And with that, we'll be right back with the main topic. And welcome back. It's time to get into The Last of Us.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I had a blast playing the video game series. And then, you know, when HBO was like, oh, we're going to start working on, you know, developing this into a seasonal thing, I was like, man, like that game has such a large following. Like, you guys better, you know, do this right. And then it's like, oh no, we're bringing on some of the game developers to help with, you know, set design and ideas on how to adapt video game, you know, kind of, you know, I guess, you know, just adapt it to actual movie screen. I guess a lot like, you know.
That's going to be my first kind of question here, because I did not play the games. I'm kind of behind on my gaming. You've played the games. How close was the adaptation from like the game? I know they had to kind of change some things to make it a little more cinematic.
I mean, there were definitely similarities, but at the same time, like, you know, the same thing, you know, I would say the same thing about Ready Player One, right? The book in, you know, its form would not have made for a great movie. And the video game, like, you know, you're left with a lot of choices and, you know, decisions having, you know, sort of, you know, hey, you can have, you know, a good ending or you can have a really bad ending, you know, depending on the choices that you make. And you can't really do that with, you know, a film unless, like, they're like, all right, you know, I mean, this had 9 episodes, and I think I recall some old DVDs where they had an interactive feature, and, like, you could choose, like...
Kind of like the old, like, Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah, almost like the
a
Telltale Games, you know, series and stuff like that. But, you know, it'd be kind of cool to be like, all right, episode 8, fade to black, and then, you know, episode 9, you choose.
Yeah, we get the, you know... We got one of the endings from the game, but yeah, and we'll get there eventually. But yeah, I know, like, from interviews I've seen with, like, Pedro Pascal, and, you know, there's not, you know, because in the game, there's a whole lot of, like, stealth and sneaking around where they're like, yeah, we didn't do a whole lot of that because you can walk around on, you know, squatted down, you know, crouching for hours in a game, but, you know, real people that are really in their 40s or however old he is, like, that's hard on your knees to be doing that, like, all day long. So they're like, yeah, we took out a little bit of the stealth. And also, in the game, I believe, like, the funga is also airborne. So they're like, we didn't want our stars walking around with fucking gas masks through, like, entire episodes. So we kind of nixed the whole airborne spores element.
But at the same time, like, there were so many similarities, you know. I mean, just... You know, some of the beautiful, you know, pans where you're seeing whether it's Kansas City or, you know, out west in, you know, Wyoming and stuff like that. And, you know,
just the cinematography on this thing was great. I mean, yeah, it was, like I said, it's supposed to be in the apocalypse. It looked beautiful.
In
like,
its
you did a
own
really
dark,
good way,
like,
yeah.
creepy sense. And that's... I mean, that was the other thing that I loved about this is, you know, it's sad to say, but, you know, we hit that zombie high where it's like every other, you know, blockbuster or, you know, movie that was being made was another zombie virus. And it's like, all right, can we just kind of come up with something a little bit unique? Like, I'm tired of the standard, you know, just slow shambling, you know, herds of zombies, whereas this, you know, with the fungi and I mean, dude, like, I mean, we are still on the cusp of dealing with COVID, and, you know, now they're talking about, you know, like, I actually read a headline or something about some, you know, new
having
fungus.
Monkeypox, that shit died out pretty quick. What? Shit, they're not scared of that anymore. We've got to come up with something else.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it's just... I don't know. I think for me, you know, like, you get episode 1, right? And you're 23 years in the past. And I mean, this is just all action, almost that entire episode.
Yeah, it's like that. It started off with, like, it got better. And that's kind of thing I said to other people that were just getting into it. Like, get through the first episode. Because the first episode kicks you up front with this, you know, the fall of humanity, the beginning of the apocalypse, tons of action. And then they don't do fuck all for the rest of the episode because you've got to do your world building and introduce your characters. Like, you know, we showed kind of day 1 of the apocalypse, and then we jump ahead 23 years to, like, you know, where we're at in the story of, like, you know, the survivors and whatnot. So yeah, that first episode was kind of painfully slow after that action intro. But if you had stayed that slow pace through the entire episode without that, like, action up front, and, like, I don't know if anyone would have stuck around for episode 2. But even before you back it up, we were talking about, we've seen the fuck out of zombie movies. It's always like a virus or bacteria or something, where this is a fungus, and that kind of the start of it where it's like the 2 scientists on some talk show in the, like, looked like the 60s from the, you know, talking about, like, he's like, oh, well, you know, I'm not scared of viruses. We can beat viruses. I'm scared of, you know, mushrooms. That's what's going to kill us. And then goes into this whole thing about, you know, a real thing. Like,
and that's
in the
animal
other
thing
kingdom, there is a zombie fungus and he's like, all it would take is for
to be able to transmute to humans.
Maybe not now, but the Earth's temperature rises for a few years. He's like all the because that's like one of those things like legitimately, like this is plausible.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like
scary.
so I was watching the making of, and that's one of the things that they went into was the science. Like it is based on real science and real, if all of these things just happen to align perfectly, like this could possibly be a scenario,
Yeah, and like I mean, my reaction was kind of like the reaction of the because when the first guy mentions fungus, everybody's kind of like, ha ha, funny, and then he explains like what would actually happen and how like there's no cure for this. Like the audience in that talk show is like dead silent at the end, and like me too at home, like, oh fuck, this shit could really happen. Fuck.
I hope I'm not an ant.
Stock up on antifungals.
I mean, it works for toenails and such. Like, what happens if you just start dousing, like, I'm just going to start doing shots of freaking,
fucking
antifungal.
I was trying to think of a
start
brand name.
Stocking up on athlete's foot
There you go,
medicine
that's what
and stuff. Like,
fucking, bandolier of athlete's foot and jock itch cream.
Which is not something you want to fuck with, because you absolutely want to take care of your feet.
Change your shocks.
Drink some water.
It's like literally I don't have the budget to be a prepper, but every prepper thing I watch, everyone's like bailout bag. They're like, be sure and have extra socks.
I mean, that's the thing, dude. Like, if you're, I mean, everything
wool
relies on you being
too,
able to...
apparently. It's like cotton's not as good for the apocalypse. You want to have wool. Because wool stays warm even when it's wet.
Yep. Cotton will pull the heat away and lead to hypothermias. That, or you want to get, like some sort of a synthetic material. Something that's not going to... I don't know. I spent too much time in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh.
I'm over it. I'm going back.
We do our time chump, and we end up in Boston.
But we never actually left Canada.
But before like the fall of humanity, when his daughter's going over there to like visit the next door neighbors, and like the old grandma's like fucking catatonic state, and she does that like silent scream thing where I'm like, oh, that's creepy as fuck.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, we've interviewed, several, different voice actors and, stuff like that at Dragon Con, and it was kind of cool watching the making of and, them standing over their microphones, replicating, the clickers and everything else, like, and that's got to be tough too, like, you got the female and the male clicker, and it's like, okay, this is a thing that's already been established. Like, we now have to recreate this for, the series.
One of the things I kind of also appreciate about this for, like, I guess from a filmmaking standard, is they incorporated a lot of the voice actors in the show.
Yeah.
Because Troy Baker, who played Joel in the game, shows up later as James in I think episode 7 or 8 as part of that weird cult group, and the real life Ellie, played by Ashley Johnson, shows up in the last episode of The Last of Us as Anna, Ellie's mother, and then was it the lady who played Marlene, the head of the Fireflies, is the same who played her in the game. So it's like there's like so many of these people that made the jump from making the game.
And I think that's what made
it,
it so much more real. Because like we've seen it time and time again where you get a movie adaptation of a video game, but you end up with all new voices, and it's like, man, for a series such as The Last of Us, like, it needs to be spot on. Otherwise, people are going to be like, who the fuck is this? And then I give a shit. Like, but this absolutely sold me. It far exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, because we've seen things like the Terminal List, for instance, where it stayed true to the kind of the core, but they changed enough of it to be interesting and not like a shot for shot But this, they went
Well, no,
way
I mean,
more toward the like recreating the game.
but
with a few changes.
they did change, several things to make it feel fresh, and it's not a continuous thing where you're like, okay, I know what's about to happen here or something like. So they shook it up enough. I feel like if you're a fan of the game and you haven't seen the series, I don't know why you're listening to this episode right now, but you should probably pause and go watch The Last of Us for yourself. But
like I said, that first episode,
to me, it still felt it felt familiar, but there was enough to where it wasn't like, all right, I've seen this, I know what's coming, and I've lost interest.
Because like I said, episode 1 kind of slowed things down, and then episode 2 you get the them trying to get through the Boston to drop off, because the Firefly's like, hey, take this girl, we're not going to tell you why, but we need you to get her to another group in the capital, and we'll give you a truck for it. And of course they find out she's infected, immune.
I already sold the damn battery.
But Tess too. Like anyone who was a fan of the show Fringe, like I haven't seen her since Fringe. I was like, oh shit, that's why she looks familiar. But yeah, she was. She's only with us for the first 2 episodes, and then a couple flashbacks later on. But while she was there, she was cool as shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, just the character developments and everything else. Like, I don't know. I mean, the only real character that you hate as much later in the season, the fucking pedophile cultist. I felt like I was playing Far Cry 6, I think.
I do like how she finds their like book of music, and it's like, oh, that's their secret code on the radio, is different decades of music means different things. And she's like, what does the 80s mean? And he's like, nothing. And then she's like, I don't know, because there was an 80s song earlier. He's like, what? He's like, 80s means trouble. And like that episode ends with like after them getting outside the wall and stuff, like the fucking radio just cooks on and starts playing the 80s. You're like, shit. Don't know what that means yet, but something's getting fucky.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just such a, the fact they were able to pull off this cross-country endeavor in just one season, like, still kind of blows my mind. Like,
I know they said for like, because there's only been 2 games, and I'm like, this is such a hit. I don't know how they're gonna do season 2. They've said that season 2 is gonna be broken up, or the story of the second game is going to be broken up into multiple seasons. So, yeah, either that or they got to hurry up and come out with another fucking game.
And who knows? Like, we've talked about it on previous podcast episodes. We used to have a lot of cross merchandising where you had this big blockbuster thing, and then you would have a video game following it, and all kinds of toys and other
I just hope they don't fuck it up, because I finally watched the last of the 3 new Halloween movies, and it felt very much like we had a plan for 1 movie. It was successful, so they told us we had to make 3, and we only had plans for maybe 1.5. So the second 2 movies just sucked ass. So I'm like, so now they're like, well, we did the entire first game in 1 season. We have 1 more season, or 1 more game, but now we're going to try to stretch that out into multiple seasons. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if they're going to go
and
too far off the rails with the...
I mean, that was kind of my complaint with The Walking Dead, right? Like, these graphic novels had been out for a while, and, like, dude, they made entire seasons over just a few pages of the graphic novel, and it's like, can we just speed this along? Like, fast forward. Get to the good shit.
But, yeah, the wandering through and Piano Frog in episode 2. They're like we need to go into this hotel so we can get like a bird's eye view and plot our course through the through the town. And it's like the bottom level of the hotel is just flooded because it's been 20 years now, so things are breaking down, and you get this like ominous like ding 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 like piano stuff, and then no, it's really there's a frog like hopping across an old piano in this lobby. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, you never ran across musical frogs in your travels?
Oh, the ones I always see just goes bud. Fries. I've seen those.
Those were the good old days of marketing. We don't have those anymore.
And then like in the whatever Boston Museum where we get kind of our first, you see like all the just like kind of zombies on pause, where it's like, you know, there's nothing for them to chase, so they're just kind of like laying in a big fungi pile. But they're interconnected, so if you step on a fucking mushroom somewhere, you wake up the entire horde. I'm like, that whole like hive mentality is kind of an interesting danger. We're like, you know, zombie apocalypse, like one zombie sees you, you're good, but like with this one, it's like, oh, one zombie sees you, they all see you, and you're pretty well fucked.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing I kept kind of forgetting. Like,
and we also get our first like clicker, and it's like, oh, these things, it looks like the shit I've seen like from, you know, pictures and videos of the game. I'm like, the character design in this was like,
well, and I
thought it was cool, and then like the people who like actually played the game was like, oh yeah, that's fucking straight out of the game.
Like, that was the other thing, is they use a lot more practical effect in this series than trying to rely on CGI. And I think that was the other thing that really sold me, you know, and made it feel real. Like, you know, CGI's gotten to the point now to where it's almost like, like it's either really bad or it's almost too good.
But even if CGI is really good, you still have actors that are having to act opposite a fucking tennis ball, where I think you get way better performances when they're in the space with a thing and can actually react to a thing instead of just like pretend this tennis ball or this dude in a blue suit is a 6-foot monster and action.
So how does that work? Like, you know, you worked around haunted houses and stuff like that. Like, you know, you're walking around backstage or something, you know, pre-show, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to be menacing and everything. Hi, Bob. How's it going today?
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, especially like walking around with the lights on and shit, and you're just like, oh, this all looks fucked up. And then the lights go off, and you're like, ah, shit. That's why, like, if I want to get scared, I have to go to haunted houses that I don't know people in. Because when I'm walking through, like, you know, places I've worked, I'm just like, oh, there's John. He's a creepy boy. At this point, like, I don't have like a scare reflex. It's all internal. Because it's like I'm so numb to it from like years of working in haunted houses. Somebody jumps out, I'm like, good one. It's like I don't scream, and it's like I've gone numb to horror.
It's okay. I'll take you to what is it? Something Manor. I can't remember.
Butt stuff manor? What?
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
I was at that one where you got to sign a release form and they're like, can touch you and shit.
Well, I mean, not only that, but, you know, like, who knows what fucked up. And, you know, like, apparently they always change the stakes. Like, it's a fucking whole shit show from what I've seen, but who knows?
And I gotta say, from someone who thinks about, like, survival and prepping, there's definitely some stuff throughout this series that I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing? And in this episode, the first of the what the fuck are you doing moments occurs when they find the Firefly base, and they've all been wiped out because one of them got infected, apparently. But there is a ton of, like, guns and grenades and everything else. And
well, Joe, you know you got to progress through the story to level up to get more backpack space, right?
But they didn't even like try to, like, it's like, I'm gonna turn, y'all take off because I can hear the horde coming. I'm just gonna blow this place up after y'all leave. Cool, you got at least 5 minutes for those fucking, you know, fungus guys get there. And there is like literally like crate loads of like AKs and mags and grenades. Like if you get just like a mad minute, like grab as much shit as you can in that. Well, there's even like MREs and like food there.
Weight is a thing. Weight is a thing.
But they take nothing. They just run the fuck out of there. And I'm like, dude, like, grab an AK, a couple mags, fill your pockets with some grenades. Hell, at least grab like a fucking case of MREs on your way out the door or something. But no, they just like leave everything to be exploded. It's like, the fuck?
It's a high-tense situation. You don't know how you're going to react unless you're in that high-tense situation.
I do. I'm going to grab shit as I run out the door.
Oh, fuck. They're faster than I expected. I should have used that 5 minutes. They're on me.
They're faster than I expected, but I've got a bucket of grenades now, just tossing them over my shoulder as I run. Lighten the load, motherfucker.
I could just see that. You just fucking... Every 6 feet, there's a nade going off.
Yeah. Just like not even looking, just pulling the pin and throwing it behind me. And then you get later on where they like get to his where he'd stash some shit in like an abandoned gas station, and he's like, got drugs and other stuff, and he's like, ends up like fucking putting his AR that he'd gotten off one of the fucking Fedra guys and stash. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, they're low on ammo, and it's really hard to find ammo for these things out there. I'm like, motherfucker, that is an AR-15, probably the most popular firearm in the world. Ammo for that's going to be a whole hell of a lot easier to find than that fucking 357
They were in
you're
Canada,
carrying.
Joe.
They're supposed to be, well, the fucking Northeast. They're pretty.
Well, I mean that's where set location matters.
So they've already stated that like Fedra has a bullet factory in in Atlanta and shit. So it's like it's not like cool. We're 20 years into the apocalypse. We've used up all the ammo. No, like I said, you're going to find in the apocalypse 7.62, 5.56, and 9mm are probably going to be the most plentiful things you can find. He's like, nah, I can't find any more ammo for this AR. It's very rare. I'm like, bullshit, motherfucker. That fucking revolver you're carrying's ammo is probably a lot more rare than 5.56. And he does it again when we haven't talked about Bill and Frank yet, but Bill and Frank has a whole fucking bunker, and he just takes like a hunting rifle and some like, dude. Like, at least grab a Glock. There's like 3 of them on the table. Like, no, I'm just going to walk around here with my 357 and my old 30-06. Joel's a FUD. That's what I'm just... He's one of those, like, 1911 back-to-back World War champ. I don't need none of your modern plastic guns. Joel's the ultimate FUD. It makes sense now.
I can't take this episode seriously anymore. Thank you.
I mean, I would at least took the fucking M1 Garand. If you want to go old school, go like real old school.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because, I mean, the weight argument's off the table at that point because he has a truck at the end of the episode. You can carry all kind of shit.
Well, I mean, so when they acquire the vehicle, yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, should probably have cleared that bunker
out instead of just like, now we're going to grab a change of clothes, some nudie mags, and a couple backpacks, or a couple fucking sleeping bags, and we're good. We don't need like the entire fucking arsenal that's in the basement.
Well, that's the art of being a minimalist.
You run out of shit and you die. That's the art of being. Oh,
they're going out west. There's nothing out west.
But let's, speaking of things that deviate from the game, because in the game, I don't even think you even meet Frank. He's like pretty much already gone by that point in the game, from what I read. But you get this whole like pocket episode of showing how the last 20 years have played out for a different survivor. And you got Bill, played by Nick Offerman, is basically Gay Burt Gummer. He's the guy that was like prepping for the apocalypse all this time, and then it finally happens, and he's like, "Fuck y'all! This is like they come to clear out the town.
I've been waiting for this."
Yeah, they come to clear out the town, and he's hiding in his secret bunker. And of course, they end up killing all the people that they evacuated from the town. And he's just like, I'm gonna go steal my neighbor's boat, use it as a trailer. I'm going to Home Depot, stock up on all the shit I need. Hell, go to the local power plant, turn the power and gas back on, and fucking, dude got like a diesel generator. Like, builds like this whole booby trapped fucking wall around his city. And I was like, this dude's like, all right, I've been waiting for this shit. And then, he finds Frank in a pit trap, and he's like, the one thing I didn't count on was love. But like, that's who we want to be in the apocalypse, like but probably we're all gonna die. But the guy's like, and I love they had that argument later on where it keeps jumping ahead a couple years, and at this point they're bickering like an old married couple, and he's like, no, we're surviving, but we're not living. And like, I want some gas for the lawnmower. I want to cut the grass. I want to make this town livable, and I want to make friends. We need to get on the radio, find other people, and make it's not just. And he's like, no, that we can't do that. Like, fucking cutting the yards and all this, making shit pretty is not. He's like, you can't just spend your life, going, ooh, the government's full of Nazis. He's like, but the government is full of Nazis. He's like, yeah, now, but not when you started this shit. You were paranoid then. Now, all right, you're correct. But, but yeah, I just love that. Where he's like, you just think the government's full of Nazis? Like, the government is full of Nazis. Like, all right, well, now they are, but not when you started this shit.
Yeah, that's always the thing. Like, people just, crazy, delusional, conspiracy theorists, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, yeah, there was some truth behind all of that.
One other, because I talked about Joel's, like, weird shit. There was one thing that I thought was bullshit, but then I was listening to another podcaster who's, like, ex-military shit, and he actually said something that made a lot of sense, because I was like, Bill is this huge prepper, got all these guns and all this cool guy shit, and then when his complex gets attacked, he's standing in the middle of the street with no cover trying to shoot at these guys and ends up getting hit. Like, you've done all this prepping and your tactics just went out the fucking window. And this other guy was like, you got to think the apocalypse happened in 2003. Like, civilians doing tactical training and all the YouTube gun gurus that we all study and know now didn't happen until much later on. So YouTube, gun guys were never a thing. So it's like, it's highly possible that, the mass training of civilians and firearms tactics and shit never happened. And I'm like,
that too, but you're never going to have a mass training, like even in an apocalyptic situation, right? Like, fucking China's invading, and it's, every able-bodied
Red Dawn, motherfuckers.
Man, must pick up an arm. They're not going to have time to tackle. They're going to be like, we need bodies and we need bullets downrange. So point this way and make sure that the guy in your sights isn't a friendly.
But yeah, this is the whole, dude, cover and concealment just went right out the window. You're standing there in the middle of the street getting shot at. But in today's age, people that tend to be pro-gun also want to learn how to fight with said guns and not just these people like this. And I heard somebody refer to them, he's like, these are loot crates. Because in the apocalypse, these are the guys that are stocking up on all the shit, but never learn how to use it. So when I come along, I'm getting a bunch of free shit when I kill this guy. They drop loot when you kill them.
I just leveled up.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, I might not have all the prepping gear I want to have, but I do have a certain set of skills. So it's like, other people are just holding shit for me because,
And that's the other thing too. You brought up the expense of just getting, supplies and everything else, but what good are supplies? I see people oftentimes like, oh, I got this badass med kit. I don't know how to use anything but apply a Band-Aid.
Take any of the, do you know? Cool, you've got a box of tourniquets. Have you ever learned to put one on? Yeah, so it's like, I can see.
I've got a CPR mask, to protect me from germs, but I don't actually know how to do CPR.
But even talking in the middle, I kind of see I highly recommend you get some kind of medical training, even if it's just whatever one, the Stop the Bleed classes, to go with your badass med kit. But at the same time, it's like, may not have the knowledge to use the stuff, but someone else might that doesn't have the tools. Like, you show up on an accident and it's like,
Well, that's why I've always
I've got this med kit, and then there's like another guy in the fucking traffic jam that's like, well, I'm a doctor, but I don't have my med kit. I'm like, here you go, bro. Do your work.
But at the same time, like in a apocalyptic situation, like that doctor may be like, oh, I don't have a med kit. Like that's the thing, like that I really liked is, every time you encountered another individual, like that's truly, all right, make your assessment, friend or foe. Like, every encounter is a risk. Like that's one thing, like, where preppers, like, I get it. You don't want to advertise that, hey, I have all of this cool shit, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like, unless you've invested the training into all of your cool shit, like, maybe you need a buddy on board that could be like, look, I'll furnish the supplies. You furnish the set of skills to make sure that we continue to keep said supplies.
Yeah, that's, a lot of people kind of
and I'm not saying like that's a community of 30 people, because then, I feel like that would be, just a group of 4 or 5 maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be real hard to survive on your own, because I can't be an expert at everything. And when you are collecting gear and supplies for a apocalypse or bug out situation, you need to also be collecting people. Because like, yeah, you need someone who's got mechanical skills, someone who's got medical skills. Hell, someone who's got farming skills. I mean, there's your chances of surviving if you have a community or a team around you is going to be much higher than the lone lone survivor.
Like, yes, you could live off of MREs. You probably don't want to live off of MREs alone. Like,
yeah, they're eventually going to run out. You got to be able to, like, grow your own food or hunt and prepare animals and whatnot. But fucking Bill there, man, he's like fucking steaks every night. And I'm like, dude, he's like, I got a whole liquor store of wine. Get me fancy wine. I have steaks every night. I'm like, bro, living pretty good. I love his little like fucking grinder flamethrower booby traps that he set up around the perimeter. Or even before that, he's just like sitting in his bunker watching infected walk into his like shotgun booby traps, and it's like, I was like, dude, yeah, unlimited budget, or in this case, society's collapse, and you can just take your truck to the Home Depot and stock up on whatever you want. I'm like, this is pretty sweet. And Frank, played by Murray Bartlett. But yeah, that whole, and then I like when Joel and Ellie finally make it there, because spoiler alert if you hadn't, they eventually they never kind of say, but I'm assuming it's cancer or something that Frank gets, and he's like, I'm done. Like, I want to just have a nice dinner. We get married, put on fancy suits. And we're going to take enough, or I'm going to take enough drugs to, kill a fucking horse. But of course, Bill, like, doesn't want him to go alone. So he's like,
so you have the whole Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Even in the apocalypse, romance still prevails.
Yeah, they both drink the suicide wine and go upstairs. But then when, like, jump to however long between that happening and them showing up, which I'm assuming it's probably at least a week or so, because everything's kind of covered in dust and shit. And he leaves that note for Joel, and it's like, this note is for whomever finds us, probably Joel, because everyone else would have died in my booby traps. Ha 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 ha. And she's like, he literally wrote ha 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 ha. I was like,
well, it's not like you're cool. Texting, you don't have emojis at that point.
I do think I'd probably picked a better apocalypse vehicle than an old Chevy S10. But if the world ended in 2003, you're stuck dealing with 2003 and earlier vehicles.
I don't know, dude. Some of the 80s model Chevys and stuff.
Like I said,
mean,
yeah, I'd like that.
Those things are built like tanks.
A nice Silverado 4x4, I'm good to go. But that little that little blue and white S10, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be very apocalypse proof. But yeah, fucking having the battery like all taken apart, and like, dude, like did his due diligence.
I don't know. I think I would have been trying to figure out how to, hijack one of the Fedra Humvees or something.
Yeah, those fucking Fedra APCs probably shit on gas mileage, but them things were tough looking. Oh, and then you get to them getting ambushed in Kansas City and running into a town where the town folk had rose up and threw out the Fedra boys, but then they are like, we need revenge on anyone who participated in Fedra control, and their kind of town leader there is a little bit of a psycho. Maria, played by Rutina Wesley.
Kind of feel like a bit of a psycho.
Yeah.
Like, Henry's not your priority, it's my priority, and you do what I say. Like, and I'm the big fucking brute with the rifle. Like,
yeah, it's just this little kind of unassuming woman just walking in there and murking dudes. But when they, Henry, who's apparently protecting his little brother, and end up giving up her brother to Fedra before her uprising. She's hunting his ass, and of course him and Joel run into each other and decide to team up. But when they get to the kind of the outskirts of town and run into that like sniper guy, and Joel flanks him, takes him out, but of course the militia shows up, and then the fucking bloaters coming up out of the ground. You're like, oh yeah, we're back to a zombie apocalypse. Like, we've got like a few episodes there of just people versus people, and then it's like, oh yeah, I forgot we're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. So yeah, let's throw the monsters back out.
yeah, the fucking bloaters, dude, just fucking brutes.
And of course the kid gets bit, and fucking Ellie's like, they say my blood, like, well, there, let me put some blood on your wound, and maybe that'll save you. But of course it does not. And he turns, and Henry has to kill his brother, and then kills himself. It's like, yeah, it's like there's no happy endings in the apocalypse. So it's like, and Joel's whole purpose, because at first he's like, Ellie's just cargo, but as they go, he starts kind of learning to be a human again, and starts caring for her.
I kind of feel like Pedro Pascal gets that a lot. Like, it's always an escort mission, and then
she's the new Grogu.
I'm a father again.
Yeah, it's like this is just basically the Mandalorian without armor. She's Grogu. What about the book of dad jokes?
I was going to bring that up because
I learned several new dad jokes that I've annoyed Amanda with, but I'm like, if nothing else, watch this show for the dad jokes.
Like, and I can remember us having books like that,
Her finding the gay porno mag in Bill's truck.
And just
Holy
completely
shit!
trying to be oblivious. Like,
is this real? He's like, throw that out.
Why are the pages stuck together?
Yeah.
Totally knows more than she's letting on just to make him uncomfortable. That's awesome.
But yeah, they were looking for Bill's brother, who was a Firefly and went out west, and he lost contact with him. I like when they come across the Indian couple, and like the one is like, he's like, you cooked him dinner? Yeah. Like, she's like, does not give like any fucks about, like, he's all like, fuck these people, like, we need, and she's like, yeah,
I mean, they haven't hurt me.
Yeah.
They,
made him some dinner.
Got a kid with them, like. Yeah.
It's like they just like did not give a fuck about the apocalypse. It's like, yeah, this is just Tuesday for us. But yeah, they find this a different kind of settlement, less psychos, in Jackson, Wyoming, and it turns out her brother is
Jackson Hole. I've been there.
Brother has found him a wife and joined this whole community. And I like that he's like, yeah, everybody has a job, we all share everything. And Joel's like, sounds like fucking communism. He said, no, it's not like that. And his wife's like, we live in a commune. We're literally communists. He's like, yeah, but not the bad kind. But yeah, that whole thing sounds like some commie shit to me. No. He's like, no, this is a commune. We are literally communists.
But in its true form, I mean, that's what it is, before it,
There's no oligarchs, actually running everything.
trying to disguise it as like, you're going to do all of this shit and I'm going to reap the reward, Yeah, it's all great until, somebody decides that they want a little bit more.
And then you got an Animal Farm situation.
Poor piggy.
And Joel tries to pawn her off on his brother because he's starting to get a little PTSD action by this episode.
I kind of feel like his heart's trying to... Old Ticker's trying to give out on him.
But it's almost like... Not like an actual like medical heart attack, but it's almost like a panic attack. Like he's like having like
He's like, shit, I should have heard people coming. Shit, I missed, this. Like, I'm getting slow. Like, but at the end of the day, like, you made it across country in the middle of a fucking apocalypse.
Yeah. But he decides, like, nah, I started this mission. I'm going to have to... Can't let baby girl go by herself.
Oh, baby girl.
And then they find the original camp they're heading for has been abandoned and possibly moved to Utah, and then they run into a less friendly town of survivors. And of course, they kill the guy that ambushes them, but he gets stabbed in the process. But when we get introduced to, I think it's David and his group, the stark difference between the communists of Jackson Hole and David's like weird religious cult that are unbeknownst to them.
That's straight up, hey, let's drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, he's like straight up, Midwestern David Koresh or and the fact that he's like, girl's like, my daddy's dead, when can we bury him? And they all kind of look at each other. It'll have to be the spring. The ground's too frozen. We'll keep him on ice till then. It's like, nah, your daddy was your chili you just had for dinner, because they're pulling a terminal from The Walking Dead and eating people along the way.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough call though. Like, I mean, are they doing that because they're all shitty hunters? I mean,
Yeah, when he said like how much venison we got left, and he's like, about a couple days worth. I'm like, is it actual venison, or do you got like 3 dudes in the freezer?
And literally, it was 3 dudes in a freezer.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're supplementing with people or if that's all they got at this point. They're on the full on Soylent Green diet.
But yeah, no, I was like, no, this dude's gonna end up being, a religious, just manipulative asshole.
Yeah, because he's coming off as like, oh, I'm, town chose me, I'm the preacher, and then and trades deer for some penicillin because Ellie patched him up, but he's got an infection. Let's go hunt this motherfucker down because he killed one of our own. And eventually captures Ellie, and it's like, oh no, like, I'm feeding my people, but I'm also kind of a rapist cult leader. Just that change of no, I'm just the friendly neighborhood preacher, for the good of all of my flock, to like, no, I'm their god, Dude took a like quick dark turn, and you're happy to see him get, fucking meat cleavered to death.
Yes, absolutely. Like, and fucking Ellie on a rage, which, I mean, it's understandable.
She went full Hulk smash. And we get that before this, that kind of flashback episode of Ellie's origin, where you see her, how she got infected, hanging out with her girlfriend in an abandoned mall. And it's like, because like earlier she sees like a fucking broken down Mortal Kombat 2, and she's like, you ever play this shit? And you're like, how the fuck you play that shit? That thing came out before you were born. And then it's like, you see like, she's like, hey, I've been hiding out in this mall, and there's no infected in the mall, and like we can turn everything on, and it's like such nostalgic. So it's like looks like 90s era mall, and it's like, there's the fucking Hot Topic with all the fucking Spencers and the back when malls had arcades,
like
yeah, back when malls had arcades and shit, and it's like, welcome to Mortal Kombat.
So how do you play? You just move the joystick and hit all the buttons, like fucking right. But damn, like she knew the fatality. Like,
I mean, well, she'd been missing for a couple weeks, so I mean, she's had at least a couple weeks of hanging out in the mall playing Mortal Kombat.
that's gotta be a pain in the ass though to be like, I used all my tokens. I gotta rip into this machine now and get more tokens.
But how much would that have sucked too? Because like they both get bit when there's like one. Turns out there's like one infected that they didn't find, and they're like, well, we're just gonna sit here until we both turn, and then she doesn't. Like, oh, that's got to be fucking. It's like, she's gonna like pull a Bill and Frank, and then it's like, fuck, she turned, but I still haven't turned yet. What the fuck?
I don't know. That's got to be perplexing as shit too. But then we get to the most unrealistic birthing scene I think in forever on how that came to be.
Yeah, so final episode, you see Ellie's mom, played by the actress who actually played Ellie, trying to meet up with the Fireflies in a house that they haven't got there yet, and she gets chased down and bitten, manages to kill the thing, but she's bitten and just manages to have a baby on her own out in this house. As soon as Marlene and the Fireflies show up, she's like, take care of my kid and finish me off.
Like, I had to let Rachel watch that when I'm like, so is this anything how real childbirth is? Like, is this something we should instill as, fear during labor? Like, because it was like, oh, I'm being attacked. Oh, there's a baby on the ground.
Whoops.
Where did you come from?
Yeah, doesn't even really notice it while she's fighting off the infected. Is like, oh fuck, there's a baby.
I guess I was really struggling.
really, really strained there for a minute and pooped out this baby. Oh. But then that's kind of where her immunity comes from, because apparently, like I said, her mother was bit while she was in the womb, so she kind of grew up with the fungus in her. So it wasn't the bite that she was pretty much already had that stuff in her, and so the fungus thinks she's one of them, so that doesn't affect her when she gets bitten, because she kind of grew up with the natural immunity, and her and Joel finally make it to Utah and find the hospital with the Fireflies.
So, well, the Last of Us 3, Ellie's gonna end up in a breeding farm. That way all of her babies come out with.
Yeah, all of humanity has to be born from like one source, and it's like
yes.
Weird. We all end up weird hillbilly inbreds.
I mean, eventually, after enough years and time goes by, there'll be some forks and stuff. But I mean, we're gonna just start the evolutionary cycle all over again.
Oh,
we're all a bunch of damn Alabamians.
But yeah, we get that kind of, because after she saves Joel, and then Joel picks her back up after killing Crazy Cult Man. It's very much he's like trying to all right, we're family now. He starts opening up to her and tells, because like when they first meet, she's like, where'd you get that scar? He's like, somebody tried to shoot me and they missed. And she's like, well, did you shoot him? No, I missed. And then he finally got confessed to her. He's like, the guy who shot me and missed was me. Like, I tried to kill myself after my daughter died, and I fucked it up. That's why I'm also deaf in this right ear, because, fucking gunshot went off way too close to my head.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Joel trying to be that guy, but at the same time, like, all right, I'm going to lie about, the Raiders attacking the Fireflies and all of that. Like, eventually that's going to come to light, and that's going to go south.
Yeah, because you get, he wakes up in the hospital because they knocked him out, and, they tell her, like, well, we're going to, her blood basically doesn't, the zombies can't think she's one of theirs. So we're going to have to kind of extract samples from her brain and use it to kind of make an inoculation that we can give everybody. So then now we're immune to the thing. And he's like, but that'll kill her. She's like, well,
she would want
shit
this.
happens. Yeah. Like, I promised her mom I'd take care of her, but this is too big. Like, we'll escort you out of town, but you've done your job. Thanks very much. And then he just goes full John Wick.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, just him just going
dropping
to the hospital,
bodies,
just fucking stacking bodies is like, oh yeah, this is the action sequence I've been wanting.
Like,
to see.
actually, this episode took me a little longer because I was like, all right, I'm gonna pause, and right as the killing starts, I put on Adam Calhoun's dropping bodies and just let it play along in silence with the thing. Sort of worked.
I haven't looked yet, but there's probably somebody has turned that sequence into a music video on YouTube. It's probably one of those like when the Doom music starts videos.
That or Mortal Kombat fight.
Yeah,
And each time you go to round 2.
Yeah, because he kills all the Fireflies, even Marlene, and she's still sedated when he rescues her from the doctors. And she wakes up later like, where am I? Like, he's like, they decided it wouldn't work. They had already tested it on a bunch of other immune people, so they just did some tests and let you go. She's like, well, where's all my clothes? We'll have to pick you up some other clothes. Fucking raiders raided the hospital. I barely got you out of there alive. What about the other Fireflies? Yeah, I think they got out. I don't know. It was kind of chaos. And then finally, like, when they're heading back to Wyoming, she's like, promise me all those things you said about the Fireflies was real. And he's like, absolutely. But it's like, no, like, I wasn't going to let them kill, killing you was the how they were going to save humanity. And I'm just like, fuck humanity. I'm saving my baby girl. Killing all of you rebel motherfuckers.
That's my boy, Blue.
So, I mean, you played the second game, right?
Not so much. Like, I'm curious to see, like, and now I'm kind of hesitant about playing the second game. Like, I played the original. I started the second, and then fucking work just got in the way, and I never got around to completing it.
Well, you know what happens to Joel in the second game, right?
I know nothing.
Well, that's why I'm kind of like wondering how they're going to do season 2. And like I said they've going to do it in multiple seasons, because in the second game it kind of starts with Joel dying, and then Ellie's the main character through all of the second game,
which
seeking vengeance for somebody killing Joel.
I mean, I could see that though, because I mean, she's.
Because in the game, I think there's a time jump where she's like an adult at this point, or more of an adult. And so, yeah, it's like Joel's not really part of the second game. So it's like, are you going to follow a different storyline for season 2 so we don't get rid of Pedro Pascal?
Are you going to keep them around, a bit longer, especially if they're breaking it up and extending stuff out? And, I mean...
He's such a huge fucking star at this point between this and The Mandalorian. There's like, do we really want to kill him off, or do we want to just kind of deviate from the game?
At this point, it'd be like,
start our own storyline here.
Killing off Norman Reedus in The Walking Dead. Like,
fucking Grogu gonna show up and like fuck somebody up and you kill my daddy. Suddenly he has a Texas accent.
Hold on. It's plausible. They were talking about going to the moon. We might very well get a Last of Us Star Wars crossover, like...
Oh.
Fucking Grogu shows up in his little egg, and, ultimately he has, the Force, and can use the Force to parasite out,
He's in full Mando armor by now. He's like, he's all suited up. He's like a little armored Yoda. Yeah.
It's at times like these I wish we knew how to do animation or something. Like, we could make that a series. That would go viral.
Yeah, new episode
at least you and I would watch it.
That show, How It Should Have Ended. It's like how The Last of Us should have ended. Fucking Grogu shows up at the end and saves them.
But then again, if that happens, then, Disney's going to need to buy the rights from HBO and...
Yeah, Speaking of, did you see Pedro Pascal on Hot Ones?
I haven't watched that episode yet.
It's pretty good. It's funny. I mean, there's just like he doesn't handle the heat as well as some people I've seen on there, but he makes it through. But there's like a certain point he's just like, fuck you, man. What the fuck is this? Oh,
I don't know, man. Like I haven't. Which I saw a thing where like you could buy like a set and get like, you know.
yeah. Every year they put out like that season's hot sauces as a box.
But
set.
yeah, like there comes a point to where, you know, it just hurts. Like
yeah, there's no. I don't mind heat if there's also flavor, but yeah, some of that shit's just like, oh, this is just a fuck you sauce. So, as we kind of wrap up there, what do you think of your cigar?
this is a hit. Absolute hit. Notes of cedar, oak, coffee, a little bit of licorice, black pepper, a little bit of almost like a I don't know. There's another spice there. It's just maybe like a black pepper, you know. This is a cigar that you would thoroughly enjoy if you have not had it.
I'll pick up one of those next time I go out.
I don't know how rare, you know, they are.
I think I've seen them at the shop, but I haven't been looking for them either.
But I'm pleasantly blown away because the guy that gave me this is, you know.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned it. I think I looked at the shop. I think they did have it. I'm going to have to try that next time
he was, you know.
I go up.
I kind of thought he was a lighter cigar smoker from some of the stuff he was talking about. But then, you know, he gave me this, and I'm like, this is a damn good smoke.
Yeah, and this...
And it might have been, too, that I've been doing 15, 18-hour days for the last week. And
you've kind of lost your palate because your endurance because it's been a while.
Not even my endurance, but... anytime I get away to be able to sit down and actually enjoy a fucking cigar, like, it's like, I don't know. It could be like, oh, I got you one of these, you know, number 52 no-name cigars. And I'll be like, this is the greatest thing ever. I love it because, you know.
I haven't had a cigar in a week.
Finally being able to sit down and relax and enjoy something.
And I gotta say, this, if you've not tried the 180 yet, definitely do it. It stayed kind of medium strength, maybe a little bit on the, but it's got where we didn't like the kind of the bitter coffee of the other cigar. This one's much more kind of creamy coffee flavor, but with a little bit of kind of pepper and even maybe like a cinnamony cream to it. So it's strong, but it's got like I said, a nice kind of creaminess to it that,
yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing I'm liking about this. It's not all strength. It's just a lot of flavor and, you know, a lot of complexity, and I'm digging it.
Yeah, I've not gone wrong on a punch cigar. Yeah, I can see why they've been around since, you know, olden times.
All right, that's it. We're going to the gas station, and we're going to buy, you know, some of the generic, like, Punch 1826s or whatever, and...
I mean, I have bought some of those prepackaged punches at the grocery store when
I can remember buying some of the Garcia Vega stuff, like back when I first started hanging out with you smoking before, you know.
I remember Philly Titans.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, those are probably god-awful now. Now that we know what real cigars taste like. When we were like, you know, dumb kids that didn't know any better.
Remember? I remember.
But now it's like cigars are so popular. You can get like actual name brand cigars at grocery stores and shit that come in little single wrapped humidified packages. Because I mean, hell, our local
and I think that's the big thing is making sure that whatever you get is in some sort of humidity pack. Like I wouldn't buy, like now knowing what I know. Yeah. I wouldn't just buy, you know, oh, this cigar is sitting on a tube on a shelf and, you know,
no, because they've
so dried and cracked.
Some of the companies have made, like, it comes in a little, envelope.
Yeah, I've absolutely seen those.
Because our local grocery store that I've, you know, didn't have time to make it at the shop, I mean, they've got Rocky Patel edges. They've got, like, the regular Punch Classico.
It's just a matter of
some
figuring out
Olivias.
where they've moved the humidor, because it seems like every week it's in a different location.
Well, since they're in those little kind of individually wrapped packages, they're with the regular cigarettes and shit behind the counter.
Oh, okay.
You just kind of like tear it open and pull out your cigar because it's like in its own little humidified packaging. They're good. They're good emergency cigars. You buy a couple of those, throw them in your car, and if you're ever out somewhere and you're like, man, I need a cigar and I can't get to a shop, there's at least it's part of your go bag. You have a couple of emergency cigars that are, self humidified.
How did you find me? I smelled a cigar. Damn it!
But with that, that's all we got for you this week. If you're watching on the YouTubes, like, comment, and subscribe. For all you audio listeners, we'll be right back with some science. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds podcast. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com. We're on the ESO Network at esonetwork.com. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Cigar Nerd Pod. Remember, smoke them as you got them. Like, comment, and subscribe.